Yeah, again, as John said, my name is Tom Welton. I am an AI consultant working with the team. A lot of experience with Copilot and all sorts of AIs over the last probably 2 years now, as this has been released really since ChatGPT came out. And today is all about cutting through some of that noise, maybe explaining a little bit how this AI works with Microsoft, talking about that security and compliance angle as well, as that is very critical for us as businesses. Apologies for the American accent. I am coming to you from Bristol, is where I've called home for 5 years. Accent has just not quite stuck with me. But before that, did work in things like cybersecurity. So if you're familiar with like Cyber Essentials, is something you may have heard of. Is something that, yeah, again, how do these AI solutions we work with and are going to continue to work with apply to us? And then I've got a few slides up front just to give you a little bit of an agenda, but mostly we're going to dive into a live demonstration. And I'm going to walk you through how Copilot can assist you with your day-to-day uses of the Office applications. And so the kind of core ones that we use for our productivity and communications, as well as kind of a couple of maybe newer features that have come out that you simply may not know about from Copilot. There's just a lot of information out there around it, a lot of marketing and kind of buzz terms, but realistically, you're on here today, and I appreciate your time to learn and just to see what's useful. Can this impact my business? Is it worth looking into the AI and empowering myself and potentially the rest of the company with one of these solutions? So without further ado, I'll just kind of go through just a very brief slideshow here just to kind of set the scene a little bit. But ultimately, Copilot is Microsoft's response to the AI wave that we've seen coming into our personal lives, our social media, and now ultimately for business. One important thing, and I've got this big wheel of Microsoft on the screen there. One thing to note is that Copilot is not just some kind of side project for Microsoft. They've shifted the entire course of the company to surround themselves with Copilot and every conceivable application. Today, we're going to stay a little bit focused. And so maybe on that 6 o'clock on the bottom of that wheel there, you can see some of your favorite applications, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Outlook. Just know that if you are using and leveraging any other advanced Microsoft tools, things like Dynamics, the Azure infrastructure, even GitHub for coding, there's plenty of Copilot out there available. We'll just focus in more on probably what's going to impact us on the day-to-day, as many of us just use those communication tools and then execute a lot of our work through those basic applications. So maybe breaking this down into a little bit more digestible chunks of what really is Copilot, we can really kind of parse it out into three specific sections. And the first one is the model or the engine, the large language model, the LLM. You hear all these different terms. Copilot is actually running the same engine as ChatGPT. So ChatGPT has a parent company known as OpenAI, and they provided the most modern and up-to-date engine, which at current, the most stable and proven engine in the industry is ChatGPT-4. That's the default one, but then I'll also show you, for those of you that have been paying attention, ChatGPT-5 has released. And so we've got another iteration of the engine, but many of you know that maybe using some of these very tip-of-the-spear solutions for business, you might want to wait 6 months or a year so it can really, work out any kind of quirks with it, establish itself, make itself proven before it becomes the default engine. And so you do have a choice of that with Copilot. What separates Copilot from ChatGPT is the addition of context. In addition to that large language model in the training set, what else does this AI solution know? It knows you. It knows your business, and your company tenant is kind of a technical term we would use to describe your Microsoft account is what we're talking about. And so this would be the business-wide Microsoft account at the tenant level. You can think of that almost like a big file folder that's then been attached to that large language model. It allows the AI to go in and retrieve information from things like your SharePoint, your OneDrive, your Outlook, and every little kind of subfolder in there then allows it to look a little bit deeper. And so every single person on this call would have a unique Copilot. I might have an exact same job as one of my colleagues. They sit right next to me, but our Copilots have a different level of knowledge because I have access to my own emails and my own OneDrive. I do not have access to my colleagues' emails and OneDrives. If we're maybe collaborating on a document and somebody shares a PowerPoint or an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, then my Copilot will gain access. And so that's maybe one of the first things to talk about with security is that Copilot doesn't need a lot of configuration. It will inherit what you currently have access to as a human. So if you can click through to certain folders and access resources on SharePoint, your Copilot is able to leverage that information. And if you're maybe on the individual contributor side, you probably don't have access to your leadership's more confidential documents. Neither does your Copilot. So it really will just inherit what you do as a human and help scope things in, as you'll see you to be able to take advantage of that when preparing for meetings, doing research, putting together documents, and all sorts of great things. But the majority of today's conversation is going to be around technology and business and how those two things wrap around. One important thing to not forget about this is the ethical and the moral component of this. I won't spend too long talking about this, but I do want to point out that the Microsoft does this about as good or better than anybody in the game with the AI space. And they do it through their 6 core principles of what's known as responsible AI from Microsoft. What I really like about these is that, ChatGPT, all these new engines out there, they're new companies. They're new to the moral and ethical components around AI usage. Microsoft is not actually. So while Copilot is new, it's a generative AI. If you're familiar with something called Microsoft Azure, they've had something known as cognitive services. And so those were the early chatbots and things like that. So going back 10, even 15 years, Microsoft has really gone in and refined and kind of tuned these 6 core principles of AI. 100% of everything I will show you today, so the free version of Copilot, the license of Copilot, and maybe even a little bit about agents, every single interaction is going to have these 6 core principles built into use of the AI. So that means if you're sitting in a compliance or maybe a risk or a governance type seat in your organization, these are fantastic things to be able to back that up with your clients, your suppliers, your vendors, to let them know, yes, we are using an AI tool. Here's how we know that it's safe and responsible for us to use. One of the pro tips I'll give you today is this makes a great baseline for your policy. We all have policies to work from home or use your personal device to access work, dress code policies, different ones. Do you have an AI policy and what is in that? And again, the teams here can assist with kind of coaching that and giving some guidance. But ultimately, yeah, this responsible AI makes a great baseline for that. One of the other things as well is that kind of talking about AI, we really see the technology now is at a point where the limiting factor is it's me, it's you, it's the humans on the call. And so it's about talking to the AI where there's a little bit of a skill set we're going to have to develop over time. What you're seeing on screen is known as the GCSE framework. This is supported by the United Kingdom Microsoft team. This is what they present to us at their events and their trade shows. Ultimately, you can see, it does what it says on the tin right there. It helps you be a little bit more mechanical to get the most out of your prompt. And so you're going to give it the goal of what you'd like to do, the context of who am I and who is the audience of the recipient of what I'm trying to do, the source that it's going to find this. And so that source is critical because your Microsoft account, it might be very large. If you've been a company for 5 years, 10 years, my organization's 14 years old, so we've got a lot of SharePoint data, a lot of documents going back in time. I'm smiling because I wish I could tell you that it's perfect, but no, we've got duplicates of documents. We live in the real world. We know that it's not exactly perfect. Again, another pro tip is right on the tail end of that purple section, the chats since June. So we've added a time qualifier so that if I'm looking for prepare me for a meeting with John, if we're in the same company, prepare me for a meeting with John. And if we've been working together 5 years, I probably for this meeting don't care about the first 4 years and 9 months. And so I might say, prepare me for a meeting with John, go back through our Outlook and Teams from the last 90 days, or from the beginning of the year, or just from the beginning of the month, to be really current about that. If we're communicating a lot, that can really improve the output that comes along. Last but not least is just the expectations. It's a non-human thing. We tend to, anthropomorphize it and give it human traits and qualities. But it is just a decision engine that we're talking to. So it's okay to be very direct and blunt with it and say, I need this in simple language. This isn't good enough. Please try again. As a generative AI, you can just refresh it and have it give a second or a third go if the output isn't what you want. And over time, you're going to naturally develop these skill sets. And so it feels a little bit mechanical coming right out of the first time you use this framework. But over time, you're going to learn to naturally speak to the AI and kind of give it all the details it needs to get a good output from it. My kind of proof of that is that right now, none of you would think twice about using Google, for a search engine. You know that you've got a little white search box on Google. You can go in, and the wealth of the world's information is behind that search bar. You know how to ignore the adverts at the top and find the websites that you trust for sources and find that information very quickly. You weren't born with the ability to Google things. We just naturally learned how to do that in business and personal life over the last couple of years. Speaking to the AI is going to be a similar journey. So just know there's a little bit of learning that's going to be involved for yourself if you want the most out of this technology. One thing I just want to touch on as well is there's this kind of word going around, and so I just want to introduce them today. So we're not going to dive down the technical rabbit hole, but you might have heard of something called agents coming out there. And essentially, an agent is just going to be a more specialized version of an AI, a very dedicated kind of process. And so that we don't have to type out that GCSE framework every single time about I'm trying to complete this action, it's for this audience, and I expect this kind of output, and I only want from these XYZ of sources. Agents are going to help us do that and grow into the future. And again, I'm human, you're human. We need to make sure that we stay kind of, keep our sanity with doing this. And there will be complexity on the back end. And that's why you've got myself and HB Tech available to you to assist with these. But ultimately for us as users and Microsoft strategy is what you see on the screen, that the human will interact with a common interface. It'll be the Copilot more or less home screen. And then these agents will be working in the background, being very specialized to deliver you great results without a whole lot of input for you. And so you can almost template out some of the more complex actions that you're working with. Just to maybe jumpstart some of the maybe thinking about these type of things. And again, we won't get very technical, but you can really break these agents down into 3 categories if you really think that there's some processes in your business that would benefit from this. The first and most simple that I'll show you today on the demo will be an information retrieval agent. It's simply going to go in, it's going to connect to a SharePoint folder, and it's going to retrieve the information back to you. And it's going to do that on demand with very little prompting input from you. These are very lightweight and relatively easy to create. No real technical expertise is needed to leverage those. If we step this up a little bit, we get into a task agent. It's going to be the next form of this. This would be something that would maybe perform an action that you as a human typically do. And as we get more comfortable with the AI, you're going to find yourself wanting these, and you're going to see some of your colleagues and some of your friends at other businesses using these things for really good benefit. Do I really need to type out the same email every single time? Or can I build an agent that would build a draft email and have a nice template for me and be able to respond in a friendly customer service tone, or prepare me for that next meeting and just have that ready to go and sitting on my desk in the morning, or consolidate some of the finances and invoicing at the end of every week. And then really ultimately where we see a lot of these things going is putting a nature of autonomy on it. So removing the human from the equation of this business process. This is how you grow. This is how you scale as a business while you keep your current headcount. We all know, we're all businesses, that it's very expensive to employ humans, and we can't just keep throwing bodies at the problem, even if we want to grow and be successful. Putting a nature of autonomy, and it doesn't have to be 100% autonomous, but if you can outsource 70 to 80% of that busy work to an AI, then ultimately you as the human are more valuable in coming in, and you can help, potentially serve more clients, more customers, produce more for your role without just adding extra people and extra desks to the team there. So certainly something to think about, and we'll showcase that in the demo as we hop into that shortly. The last slide here before we get into the live demo itself, I just wanted to give you a lot of things that Copilot can do. So, take a minute or two and look on the screen here, and hopefully you're seeing something that you didn't think you'd expect that Copilot would be able to take care of. And we see a lot of very common applications up there at the top. But again, I think it's a knowledge barrier about we don't know what we don't know. So you don't know quite what you can ask of the AI. There's a lot of very, very interesting things that we're starting to see come out of this, and this is just a small portion of the massive feature set that these AI models are able to do. The big one that I really like that changed my life personally, a firsthand account, is up there in Outlook. I think it's about six over from the left there. Following meetings I can't attend. What this means is you can send your Copilot to a Teams meeting on your behalf, and it will take notes and whether or not there's a recording on there, it can take notes and give you that summary recap and meeting recap at the end of it. If you're potentially like me and you've got a very busy schedule, right now I'm speaking with all of you. So for me, this is an external call. Maybe there's an internal company sync, a department meeting, some additional training that was also on my calendar at the same time. Instead of missing that or having to just watch a 1 hour recording to go back, and again, I still have to get that hour back somewhere in my day. I can go back and read 2 to 3 minutes or a few more of a deeper dive if I really want it about what took place in the meeting, if I was mentioned, any tasks that were given to me. And so that one, yeah, massively has impacted me. And John, yeah, potentially, I might pick on you here actually and bring you in. Anything on this screen important, or I guess you're, from you, a personal tell about where Copilot's impacting your workday and your workflow.
Yeah, I use several of those actually. The meeting one's quite interesting. I could see a point where we all send our co-pilots to the meeting and they have the meeting and then they just let us know what they all agreed.
Yeah, and that I guess that's a good point of clarification. The follow feature only works currently if there's 3 or more people on the meeting. And so if it's a one-on-one, you can't send your robot to conduct the meeting on your behalf, or at least not yet anyway. So we'll see what the future holds for us. But I mean, potentially, yeah. I mean, if your AI assistant knows you and knows your expectations, then maybe it would just have a conversation with my AI assistant that knows me and knows my expectations, and then let them decide and have the tedious work, and then you and I just get the action items. And yeah, very possible for a future state. Well, perfect. Well, I promised a live demo, so let's go ahead and hop into it and take a look and maybe do a little bit of a whistle-stop tour around here in Copilot. Just know that I'll only be able to show you just the tip of the iceberg about this, and I apologize. We'll try to slow down enough for you guys to see the features. I do intend to cover a lot of things just to show you the sheer power that comes with Copilot. So give me one moment here, and I'll get my screen shared out. So the first stop on, I guess, our tour here is going to be what's known as the Work and Web tab. And again, yeah, John, let me know if that's coming across okay in display. I'm on kind of a curved monitor here, but I can reset it to a different screen if that display is not coming across all right for you.
Yeah, it looks fine to me. If anyone's not seeing it, then put a note in the Q&A, but it looks fine to me.
Yeah, please do. I can swap it out. But this is essentially the Copilot home screen, and I do have this in dark mode, so it works in light and dark mode like most of our applications do. But where we're landing, and I'm on the internet here, so I call this the browser or the home page. And with the full Microsoft 365 Copilot license, you can see I have access to the Work and Web tabs. One thing is that, potentially you don't do that much work on the web, and you're an internal communicator, you're an internal collaborator. And so you spend all day on Teams. And so here's my Teams environment. And you can see that looks almost identical because it is. And so you don't have to force use Copilot in any one area. It's going to sit on top of your existing workflows and your existing process. And so there you can see, I've got my chat, my messages, but the same functions of my Work and Web tab and my window that I can put things in. And then I'll go even further, and I apologize as this is in light mode on my Outlook, but here you can see this is my mailbox. And so I'm in my Outlook. And so if you maybe prefer your communications and emails, you can see Copilot sits right next to my calendar and my emails right there on the sidebar, and I can interact, and I have 100% feature parity. There's no difference about this. It's entirely personal preference, just to kind of state that. I think I started using it in the web on day one, and I never really looked back from it. But if you are a Teams or Outlook user, please, John, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just to say, a couple of people saying in the chat that the text is quite small, so it's quite hard to read.
Okay, I might. Oh, actually, yeah. Is that? Let me zoom in a little bit. Actually,
there you go. I think that's a little bit better.
Perfect. Great. Then thank you for the feedback. Yeah.
One person saying lighter is nicer than darker, so or clearer than darker. So
it is, yeah. I swapped it yesterday, and I was trying to swap it back for today here. So apologies on that. Yeah, I was in my settings here, but I might have to go somewhere else in my Microsoft account to reconfigure it. I'll do my best to avoid that. Or what I can actually do is probably just listen to my own words here. So yeah, there is the kind of Copilot on the work there for the brighter ones, but. Where I wanted to maybe start is, just to talk about doing a little bit of a function. And let me just pull this off real quick to make sure I don't overshare. But you can see on the screen there, I've written a quick prompt about what the weather is like in Bristol and how that's going to appear. Let me pull this up and show you a really neat trick about these prompts. And we know these outputs are here, and that's what everybody knows, the give and take with the generative AI. Many of you have played with ChatGPT before. One interesting thing is that with the work tab and the license enabled, you can see I've got my previous conversations here on the left side. If I hover over a prompt that I've already typed, it's kind of a hidden feature. So if you have Copilot, you may not even know this exists. I've got a little clock right here, and I can click into this, and I can schedule this prompt to run automatically. And so we're not building a full agent, but it's something very simple where if you have a summarize my day and prepare me for tomorrow type of prompt, and you're doing this on a once a day basis, I'd encourage you to come into here. I can tick off the weekends. I've got my Monday through Friday. I want this to run every day, right at 5 p.m. And right there. And now I've got a prompt that will run essentially for 3 weeks without any kind of maintenance. Just a current limitation for some reason, they've got this set as a maximum of only 15 times to recur. Very easy fix to go into your calendar, maybe set a reminder for every 3 weeks to just reset the scheduled prompts. This is a great way to start building a little bit of automation and very little effort being able to put in your side. So something I thought was pretty neat as far as a feature set goes. Just kind of, talking about the navigation and stuff as well. I talked about this being the work and the web tab. Essentially what that does is point the AI a little bit more specifically to what we're trying to look at and what we're trying to take advantage of. Ultimately, the web tab will go to the internet. The work tab will include your SharePoint, your OneDrive, your communications, but it also has the ability to work with the internet as well. And so if I pull this up at the top, you can see I've got the work tab enabled. I can come over here, and if I really want to only look at company documentation, if I want to point this entirely at my company, turn off the actual data set of the large language model, then I can turn off the whole internet essentially right there. Is a really nice little configuration step that we can put into place. One thing about the AI that some of you might use on a personal is, that ChatGPT. I will admit I have a personal subscription that I use for non-work stuff. It's kind of a useful thing. One of the features that came out a few months ago was known as memory or persistent chat, where the AI, given my okay, is allowed to learn a little bit about me so that it can tailor the prompts and responses. And if that's something that has been interesting to you and something you'd maybe like to bring into your business account for AI, those settings do exist. And so if I just come into my settings here, I go to personalization. Here, I can see custom instructions. And so again, really good, strong moves by Microsoft. This is disabled by default. So you're going to have to be proactive and enable this if you'd like to take advantage of it. You just turn on the instructions, and here you can tell it a little bit about your job. I work in this department. This is my role. My expectations are X, Y, Z for what I produce on a daily basis. I prefer things in table format instead of bullet points or, little tidbits like that. And this will kind of customize that AI for every single prompt that you do so that you don't have to type out a big, long prompt every single time. Just thought that was kind of interesting and neat. And again, that balance of privacy and how much the AI knows about us, I think that comes down to you as an individual or I guess, John, any thoughts on that? I don't want to get into the metaphysical, but maybe about this memory or personalization settings that Copilot we've started to see bring it in over the last couple of months.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I haven't had a chance to look at it properly. So I'm going to pass on that question, but I am going to look at it after this.
Perfect. And again, with AI, it's a little bit more complicated than a single bar there. And so I just want to pull up Outlook and show you a net new email here that we're looking at. So yeah, pulling into this, we've got kind of a draft email. And I just want to show you maybe some of what we can do with it, where I've got, what do I want this to say? Say, right, John, and so there's an example of maybe drafting an email. And this is one of the things that kind of working with this technology for the last couple of years is a little bit of a sticking point. It can sometimes look like a very AI generated email, especially, yeah, doubly so in Outlook more than anywhere else as far as people spotting AI content. When somebody sends me an email and it's clearly AI written, it almost feels lesser for some reason. I kind of take it a little personally that they didn't take the time to human write me an email. So there are ways that we can scale this and start introducing a little bit more flavor and personality into these. And so you can see here that I can, keep it, I can discard it. I've got easy buttons to make it shorter, make it longer. I can change the tone of this and, maybe it's an inner office communication, so we can be a little less formal, or I'm writing an email to my boss or a department leadership, so I need to make that very formal. But what I can do then is there's a second memory. Or yeah, please go ahead, John.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, can you just make the text a bit bigger, please? Got a couple of comments.
Yeah, let me, if you don't mind, I might just swap my screens. I think it's just my curvy monitor here. Just give me, 10 seconds here to swap things out, and I'll
thank you.
Get that back. And I do apologize for that. Thank you for the feedback in there. Always happy to improve how this comes across. So let me just pull Teams there. Just swapping a few files out, cleaning up my screens here.
I should say to people watching, on our presenter view, I only get a small box. It all looks small to me anyway, whether it's big or small.
Okay, so now I'm presenting just off of my my laptop screen. So this should be a much better experience here. So let me go back and find that email. All right. So that hopefully that looks a little bit better for you guys there. I can even zoom in a little bit just on the email. So there, yeah, we can see now that, kind of the sent, and this is all entirely written. Maybe my greetings start out with hello instead of hi, and maybe I say sincerely instead of regards. This is where we can start introducing a little bit more customization. So inside of Outlook is a different settings that we've got here. And here I can see draft instructions. So again, something that you as a human would need to enable, but always start with the greeting with the person's name, insert the recipient's name, and end it, best regards, or including the comma, or use cheers, or again, sincerely, or different flavors of that. That's how we can start working some of that customization into what it knows. Again, don't tell it your personal feelings. Don't use it as a therapist or anything like that. But if you tell it a little bit about your formal job function and your role, your expected outputs, and maybe your professional communication style, it can tailor the AI and make that experience a little bit better for you going forward. And that kind of brings me to a good kind of segue point that I'd like to certainly showcase. And let me just pull my email back here. I've talked about personalization and what Copilot knows about you, and I don't want anybody to worry about that, because one thing I didn't really cover, but I can certainly put this in the chat, is 100% of Copilot. So again, there's a free version of Copilot. There's the kind of full-on license that we're taking a look on today that goes through the applications. This will lead to enterprise data protection. And so what we see here is something that Microsoft has put around every single Copilot interaction. And I won't go through the documentation. This is a direct Microsoft.com documentation we're looking at. But I did want to confirm maybe a couple of myths and maybe dispel some rumors about it. Copilot here is on the security side, leverages the same encryption as it does in REST in transit. So essentially, if you do trust sensitive data to your SharePoint and OneDrive currently, Copilot is built on the same set of security protocols, and it's behind those same security walls as put together by Microsoft. Privacy is also extremely respected to that, of course, with things like GDPR, the EU data boundary, ISO, and data protection addendum. Access controls and policies will also apply. So if you are maybe on some of the advanced Microsoft licensing, and you use things such as retention policies or sensitivity labels, where you're maybe going to mark a document confidential or not fit for external sharing, Copilot is able to respect those, and so it's not going to be able to violate those existing security controls you have in place.
I'm just gonna quickly jump in here, Tom, actually, because it's quite important for the people. So I think it's important for every organization to have an AI policy. One of the things that you'll find that Tom's just talked about is that data you put into Copilot is secure, but the others aren't. And so I heard a story just yesterday of someone who went to ChatGPT and said, "Oh, please, I want to book some flights to go somewhere," but they entered in things like passport numbers and credit card details to do it, and that all just gets stored in ChatGPT and used by the algorithm, that will be used to train. Sorry. So it's just an important thing to note that irrespective of Copilot, I think it's important to make sure that you do have an AI policy and you do know that your staff are using stuff like this, and if they are, that you just make sure that they are not putting personal data in. If it's not Copilot or anything that could be tracked back to you, or anything that you wouldn't want anyone else in the world to see.
Yeah, and that absolutely great point. And so that for that foundation of that AI policy, what we would recommend is encouraging all of your users to use the free version of Copilot. So you get the same GPT engine, but you get the protection. And these 5 bullet points on here are going to be on every model of Copilot. And as you said it right there, John, the data is not used to train the foundation models. And so currently there's a lot of shadow AI out there. Microsoft ran a survey that said 70% of office workers have admitted to using a shadow AI. Very likely there's a high percentage. It's the free version of ChatGPT. Some of the more paid for subscriptions do have an element of security in them, but it's that free version that's convenient and easy. It's literally as easy as going to Google and dropping in a document, and whether you're copy pasting an email or attaching an actual document, Copilot is going to respect all these security controls. My advice for the AI policy would be to say, make a general statement that, yes, we're bringing AI tools into the business and we'll continue to evolve with the business and the technology going forward. If you must use an AI, please please use Copilot Chat. If you think you have a business justification for using a different AI, just reach out to your team lead or manager or potential AI champion in the business, just to double check on the security components. But that's kind of one of the benefits to Microsoft is that this is all default and behind the screens, whereas with GPT, who knows what's going on. And again, letting alone best practices and company documents, or again actual legal violations from violating various privacy and compliance and security components, and you might have those specific for your industry. And again, Copilot is about as strong as it gets there for the game, and it covers really any interaction that we're going to use with it. Perfect. And if I come back here, let me go back to my Copilot home screen. I did just want to show you a couple of other features that that have maybe kind of made their way in here. And let me just maybe zoom out just a little bit so I can see. And then we'll jump into some of the Office applications. But one of the newer ones out there that we've seen with a couple of the other models is these kind of podcasts, and putting together almost a kind of a notebook is essentially what they call this thing. And so I would be able to put a new notebook together. I could upload a document. I ran this one about just 40 minutes ago here, just before the start of it. All I've done was upload a Word document. I know that icon's maybe a little hard to see, but that's just a Microsoft Word document that's basically my company policy. So now I can ask specific questions about that, so I can just reference quick material. So if you work a lot with Word documents, PowerPoints, Excel files, or PDFs, and so that's important to note that Copilot does support PDFs and can read a lot of those. Or potentially as well, I can get that kind of podcast audio overview is what I had put together to use it. So you generate the audio interview, and you even got narration like a speaker, dialogue, so you have that back and forth, whether that's going to be something casual listening or you're trying to train up for a job or review stuff. So again, I've got a couple of different options there that I can customize. And again, you can even give it a plain text customization and then be able to generate that audio to be able to take advantage of that. So I thought that was a very, very interesting kind of new feature set that they've added into there. And again, if you have Copilot, it's just known as Notebooks, as we see down here in the bottom. Another great feature that maybe if you're on the more kind of design and graphic interface, you're on the marketing team, you can generate images directly out of the Copilot. It does a pretty good job of generating images. I'd invite you to take a look at this Create, just because what we're seeing here looks something more like, almost like we'd see on a social media platform or something. But here you can see an extensive list of kind of examples of the different types of things we can create. But more importantly, for us in business, one of the big challenges is brand, getting that unified brand messaging. And I just want to point out kind of here in the more, what you can do. And again, if you're in social media or marketing, that this is something I highly advise checking out. You can put a brand kit together. So I could come into here and I could say, just create another one in there, but I just want to show you the types of assets that it allows you to work with. And so there is where you would put your company logo. Here we could add your primary color palette. So you could do like a light mode and a dark mode there. Specific fonts that some of you may have gone out and have maybe proprietary fonts or a very particular one that you use in all of your messaging and communications. Additional imagery. So if there are maybe other icons other than your main brand logo, you can add those up to there. This is the big one. This is why I'm taking the time to show you this. And so, a lot of our assets and brand assets are often in PowerPoint. And for me personally in the company, this is how my marketing team presents me with kind of a golden template, a golden image of various slides that are all set and good to go with my company's kind of color coordination, the exact same, hex codes and pictures and all that fun stuff. I can actually add that template up to the top there. And then again, leveraging the AI, define how how your brand sounds. What's your communication style? Are you a little bit more casual? You're a little bit, kind of have that edgier, against the grain type of vibe? Or are you stable? Are you reliable? Are you timeless and resolute in your messaging and how you go about branding? That exists in some kind of component, and you can add some characters into there just to further customize that, just to get that inside of it. But again, this is the Copilot Create option there, and yeah, highly advise checking that out. Once you create an image, I won't be able to do one here on the demo because it does take a couple of minutes to create it. But you get a lot of maybe post production processing that you can do. I don't quite want to say it's like Instagram filters, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of it. You can pick certain styles and things. I could put this in Polygon or art, but just for day-to-day presentations, there's some very interesting things. Here's how to apply that, branding kit. And then even a little bit of sizing options. Maybe I'm creating a portrait and I, would want to upload my, my company portrait and then put an AI filter on it just to make it a little bit more fun for a presentation or something that I'm putting together. Perfect. And then, yeah, I definitely wanted to make just, again, a quick stop around all the applications. And so now what I'll do is maybe show you some of Copilot inside of our productivity applications. And so the first one, just to maybe get a basic feel here, is going to be Microsoft Word. So you can see here I've done the very time-intensive thing of copy-pasting the computer security article from Wikipedia into a Word document. And this is small even on my screen, so I'll read it out. But I just wanted to show you, this is 37 pages and nearly 15,000 words. You can see here I can just scroll forever. So I just want to show you the power and the size of it. This is Copilot up at the top, will automatically summarize that. I apologize because even, 15,000 words will still make for a pretty big summary. But this is something so great about the AI. Down here at the bottom left, if that's still too much, I could maybe go back to a standard or a brief explanation. So if I click this, and it kind of collapsed the page a little bit, so let me just scroll back up. It's going to generate a brief summary, so almost a micro summary of something massive. It's hard to say that it does, but there is, an entire article, 37 pages, boiled down to just a couple of sentences about it. But then also as well, we may want to take additional actions against the article. So you can see I've clicked this Copilot button. It's located here in the top kind of ribbons. This will become very default to you once you start using Copilot. It's in the exact same place as you'll see in both PowerPoint and Excel as well as maybe you might have spotted it in my Outlook, is in that top right corner. Very quickly becomes a critical button. And you can see this pulls out a little bit of the AI, and it's going to work against the document that I'm working into, but also connect to the rest of the company's system so that I don't have to switch back and forth to different web browsers and viewers. Here you can see, there's a great example of, yes, I can prompt anything I want, or I can take advantage of some of the suggestions. So on the right side there, and I'll maybe try to just zoom in just a little bit more. Not sure if my zoom, it's just going to make the text a little bit bigger. But here it's offering to do a lot of things for me that, that might be really valuable. So, maybe summarize this document in bullet points, and you can see it, auto-populates the list. I can see that, it did populate the US and American spelling there for English. I'm on your guys' English. I'm proper English all the way for that team. If you do see this output, that's simply a setting inside of your Microsoft. So it's just something that you can change by reaching out, to your administrators there to get it in UK English, just to kind of answer that question there that's come up a few times. But here you can see, Copilot's going to generate this list and doing this in real time on a live demo. So it could take just a little bit, but, you can see summary of key points. And, this is a little bit of a better maybe summary of what I can go through and learn a little bit about cybersecurity. I could ask it specific questions. And again, it's going to do its best to find it in the document it's looking at. But then it also may go into my company and see if there's more details. Or it may even go to the web. If I ask it a question that is just really kind of out there, it can provide me an answer from the web on those kinds of things. But lots of interesting things in there. And then to just kind of continue on here through the tour of it, it is a generative AI, and so I would like to generate a document. So let's start with a kind of a fresh word and how we would put something together here to show kind of the next example. You see, I've got a little almost like pen or pencil with some stars, kind of like the magic Copilot button is what I call that. Here you can see it's taken some things in the top. This is that kind of the connections that Copilot is. And so these are based off my real world documents and kind of meetings that I've had on my schedule. So it's being logical. It knows that we've done kind of an agent boot camp here, and we've got various kind of growth things from my HR teams, and that I actually just worked on this document. So, it's proposing the easy buttons. And then here I can add content. And so I can attach up to 3 simultaneous files. So again, I can put up to 3 PDFs or Word documents or PowerPoints or Excel just to draft the content. But just to show you kind of the generative capabilities, let's create a... So there, I'm just going to give it kind of a default prompt. And you can see there that I didn't really take my own advice about that GCSE framework, just because I've gotten very comfortable with prompting. And they call this NLP, is while this generating, I'll explain. NLP just stands for natural language processing. It simply means that we can talk to it like it's a human, and it's going to interpret those things and then be more mechanical and apply all that kind of AI model good stuff on the back end. But here you can see in real time it's generated. I've got 2 pages, and it did things that we learned when we were in primary school about give it a title, give it an introduction, give it kind of a main body, and then of course give it a conclusion. Down here I can keep my content. I've got kind of these chasing arrows here. It's almost like a shuffle button. I can regenerate it. I can make it formal. I can make it different, or I can make it maybe make it longer. So there, I'm just going to rewrite the entire document and say, it's not quite enough content. So now you can see a more robust introduction has been created. It's going to produce a few more things into it. Kind of talking about why Cyber Essentials matters here. So yeah, something maybe a little bit relevant. It does a fantastic job with tables. So if anybody's ever formatted something in a Word document over the past really any time, you'll know what I'm talking about. The tables and everything very quickly get chaotic. This is a really good table. It's built out there about maybe some recent breaches there from some maybe household names that we know of, and kind of talking about how things occurred there. But we'll see if it's able to almost get it. So now I'm up to nearly 3 pages. Looks like it's going to go into 4. And we'll see if we can get this generated here and just maybe do one more manipulation before moving on to some other applications. So great, that looks really good, but maybe I like most of it, but not all of it. And so this conclusion is a good example. So I've highlighted the specific text that I want to work with Copilot. My little magic pencil came back on there, so I'm going to click it. And then I can write a prompt here. I can input some instructions just against my highlighted text. And so I'll say, make this longer, but also add a call to action. A lot of times, a call to action or what are the next steps kind of thing. So you can see there, now it's going to go ahead and build out a little bit of a more lengthy conclusion for me. And hopefully put, there's the call to action is review your current cybersecurity measures, make sure that everybody's trained up to avoid phishing passwords, that kind of stuff there and pursuing it. And I can keep it and have both copies, or, for usability, what the humans are likely going to do, we'll just replace it. So I'll show you here, it'll replace this conclusion with a new one. So I can just click that, and now I've got my new conclusion in place. Or again, if I wanted to turn one of these into a table, or maybe shorten these into single line bullet points, or again, manipulate the document in any way that I'd like. Now just to show you kind of how this is going to work for other applications and what I'm doing in the demo, I'll just kind of talk what I'm doing. I'm going up to the share button, and I'm just going to copy the link. So I'm putting the link to this document in my clipboard. So it's like Control C. So I've just copied the pathway to this document is in my clipboard is all that I've done. And now what we can do is hop over to another application. And I just wanted to showcase PowerPoint really quick. So let me pull in a brand new PowerPoint. So I've got a net new PowerPoint in here. And realistically, when I pull it open right there, you can see create with Copilot. So we've got our blank presentation and then all the templates that we never use actually. But now we've got this create with Copilot button. It's going to pull this up, and you can see this window. It says create a presentation about, and now I'm going to paste. So now you can see that's what that Word document is that we just created that presentation. You just saw me do that in about 2 or 3 minutes. I can attach additional reference files if needed, or I can have Copilot come in and rapidly build out a nice presentation for me. And again, while it's building this out, I'll kind of remind you and set the expectations. It's called Copilot for a reason. It's not autopilot. It's not going to fly the airplane and take off and land all by itself. It's there to help you do that. You're the one in control. But this can get 80% of that kind of tedious legwork out of the way. Your time as a human is valuable. So there you can see it's put together almost maybe like a template of how it wants to build this presentation. Maybe I think the key lessons from recent research, maybe that section should go at the bottom. And so here I can rearrange the content. You can see a little plus button, so I could add a new topic about certain things in there. It looks like it's a rather lengthy topic because I already maxed it out with the limits, but then I can ultimately generate these slides. So now it's going to go through, and I've seen this rapidly improve over the last year, and so that this really is getting into a state where it's useful for the day-to-day. I'll admit I think it was maybe a proof of concept technology about a year ago. The way that this is going to build this out and put together a pretty logical presentation is something that I've been very, very impressed with recently. And you can see there it's kind of going through the motions of building everything out. There's a lot of information in the document. This will include speaker notes. So that's great if you've got a very deeply detailed document, a robust document, or maybe there's just a lot of explanations or definitions in that document. It'll put that extra content inside of the speaker notes. And so here we can see it looks like it created for us, I'll go to the bottom, 32 slides is what it's been able to generate. If you're unfamiliar with this view, it's okay. I had a panic the first time. This is just simply a different way of putting out slideshows, not reading view. This is the view there. This is what I'm most comfortable with. But we've got our title slide, we've got the agenda, and then again, we can use existing technologies. And so today, you guys have design suggestions inside of your PowerPoint. These are almost kind of little AI versions. And so now I've put a really nice little animation with the padlock. And okay, this is kind of a rather, bland kind of screen there. So maybe I'd want to, add a little bit of flavor and add a little bit of color. And you can see the default pictures. I think this is maybe a little undersold. It used things from the document. So the benefit of certification. So it's talking about, industry compliance, and it's got a little inspected stamp. And if I click on this one, it's legal and regulatory. So I'm, checking the box to make sure that I'm compliant and secure. And here we can see kind of, more tech related things, European unit, just different table of breaches and stuff. So it's very logical in the way that this creates this. Again, there is Copilot here on the side, and it can help you with maybe summarization, key takeaways. And so this, of course, works with existing presentations. Create images, design simple graphics, so on and so forth. But with that, I want to make sure we leave enough time to get through the just tons of stuff I want to show you. So we'll maybe exit out of that. And kind of the big one that a lot of people work with is, let me just pull this out of the side here, is going to be potentially an Excel file. And so this is something that I've really seen, make a lot of ground lately. So let me just pull up a spreadsheet here for you. You can see there I've got, I think this is like finances from like a bicycle supply company that I have, a little bit of things there about some products that's going on. Here, I've got Copilot, and it's very subtle. I've got two different ways that I can access Copilot. And again, going back, the amount of features in this product is just astonishing because here you can see this is that Copilot that's, you're very familiar with seeing this. We saw this exact same thing on Word and PowerPoint. Excel is the big one. This is where we as humans could use the AI for why we invented it in the first place, is to really help us with some of this analysis type things. The secondary one I'm going to click on and show you is app skills or application skills. This is natively built into Excel to just, really help us get our jobs done. And so you can see things like suggest a formula column. So I'll click on that, and you'll notice that, I haven't really prompted that much. I'm able to just select what is logical because it's getting really good about maybe interpreting what I'm very likely to ask it, or tell me more about this particular data. And the amount of features that really come with this is honestly more than I probably even know about. Many of you are much better at Excel than I am, but more so just showing you how it goes about this process. What it's done is it's going through and it's analyzing all of my columns, all of my rows. It's going to interpret some of the words at the top for what those columns are. And here is just something that, this was kind of the wow factor with AI when I saw it produce this. And so it wants to create a column called net profit. There's the description of that column in plain language. It's written the function for how to do that. And it can even explain the function in a little bit more detail if I want to learn. I've got a nice copy button, so I can send that to a colleague, or I can use this in another workbook if it's really powerful. And then I'm going to scroll over in my spreadsheet here. And you can see on the right side, I've got an empty column. If I hover it over, it gives me a nice little preview there of net profit. So I can go ahead and insert that live into the document. And I've got that in place. Really, really great thing in there. But also, I find myself losing time in Excel for very basic actions. I have to go to YouTube and Google just to perform a very simple action. Let's say convert column X to GBP currency. And I know that some of you are shaking your head because you know exactly where you need to go here at the top to find that. But if I don't work with Excel on a daily basis, that might be a little difficult. Or if I'm trying to do conditional formatting or put together some pivot tables, this is where we lose time and where Copilot can help with that productivity. Yes, I could figure that out the old-fashioned way, but it's going to take me time to research. Here, Copilot is able to just come in and It looks like it maybe wants to just insert a new column for it, but that's okay. So we can put that into place. And then, of course, I could just come in here and delete the older column. Well, I guess based off references. Again, Excel is not my strongest application in there, but hopefully some of you are seeing at least some of the power with it. Just as, yeah, we'll want to move on here as we wrap up. But for those of you that are very advanced in Excel, the answer is yes. It does support Python. So this can help you with some of those more data science and Python related ones. But as I wrap up, I kind of want to return to my my home screen here and show you a little bit about the agents that I had introduced. And so let me pull this here and see if I can get this yeah, kind of spun up. And so this is some things that we like to call agents. And so I'm back on my home screen. I've got my work and web tabs that I can influence. And you see these things on my sidebar here. These are my agents and how I interact. One of the best things that is about this kind of technology is Microsoft is building these for us. And so don't worry, you don't have to build a custom one for your business. Built by Microsoft right here. And this is very similar to how you would download a new application on your smartphone. So on your iPhone or your Android. Tom was telling me about this researcher agent. It looks pretty cool. You can see I can just open it up and just click a little button and that will say add. And it'll just simply add it into your, Copilot just to be able to play with it. The researcher agent, I ran one already just because this takes a little bit, but this is what that researcher agent looks like. We can see here, that's a very simple prompt. I'm near our Farnborough office here. So, tell me about the Farnborough Airport. And it says, sure thing. I'm about to know a lot about this topic. Can you help me kind of scope in? And I said, just go ahead, use your best kind of judgment on it. And you guys have seen the outputs of some of the agents, but this is the analog of a deep research. And so this is what it produced with me with that very simple prompt. Historical timelines and significance, kind of great little numbers, maybe some, annual things going on at the airport and good numbers. Again, I'm not going to read through all of this, but you can see that output was absolutely astonishing. I can open that up in a Word document and maybe send that to somebody, as well as my sources and citations. You can see here, this goes across a lot of external sources, and it even took advantage of it. It looks like I was having a chat with my colleague Nick about this, and it even found that conversation in Teams, just to maybe reference a fun fact or something that he told me about it. Alternatively, for those of you that are more analytical, the top two that I recommend, yeah, researcher, if you're going to do research on something, or potentially analyst if you're more Excel. And so this is where you can come in and, again, the real world's a bit messy with those notebooks and everything, but this will come in and design a lot of, really interesting kind of analysis. And so uploading a spreadsheet, and all I said was perform a summary analysis on the workbook. It's able to give me overviews, summaries, date patterns, product insights, suppliers. And again, very little prompting. Last thing I'll show you here before we wrap up is that it can clean the data set and then highlight your changes. And so, again, the real world ones come in. Here's a summary of the things that it did. So it helped me, normalize fields and maybe clean up those kind of specific ones. But again, agent and researcher there, yeah, very, very powerful things to play around with. You may not have ever encountered them if you're just kind of in the basic Copilot chat conversations and going on inside of that. But with that, let me go ahead and just kind of put something on the screen there. But then, John, very happy to bring you back in as well as we wrap up for any kind of final thoughts. I know we're right at time here, so I apologize for going just a bit long.
Well, they're all still hanging on mostly, so virtually everyone's here. So apologies for slightly overrunning, but I hope as you're all still here, I'm assuming you're still finding it interesting, so it's all good. I did make a few notes as I went along. I mean, the first thing is we ran a webinar probably a year, 18 months ago, and this has come on a lot since then. And it's continually being added to. That's one thing that I noted. So. Another thing which we've discussed internally, that Copilot is much more of a business process tool than what I would call a technology tool. So it's thinking about unlike when we might come and talk to you about security and devices and what have you. This is much more about the processes within your organization. Certainly, as times are tough at the moment, getting the most out of your team and what they can do is definitely paramount. And this is definitely a tool that would help with that. So, and I think my last thing is just because we have got clients who use this, got quite a few clients who use this. I'd say probably the way to approach this is to think about your processes and look at potentially putting a trial in your organization where you think it might be most effective. So the obvious ones would probably be marketing. If you've got someone who's doing compliance type work as well, where they need to generate a lot of content or need to summarize a lot of content, try it in your organization and then move out from there. Don't try and revolutionize your entire organization in one go. That's not going to work. So maybe just, like I say, just start with the trial, and then when you see the benefits of it, then you could then start pushing out to other parts of your organization. I think that's probably anything. Unless there's anything I've missed, Tom, if you think.
No, absolutely. And I think, it's very easy to get ambitious about this technology. Start small, start with find an easily solvable problem.
Yeah.
Find something tedious that you're doing every single day, rather than that once a month project that takes you a couple hours. Yes, we can maybe get to that one day with AI, but it's where can we find that immediate impact of I'm overwhelmed, I'm a department of one, I just really have a hard time keeping up between my Outlook, my Teams, and making sure that I didn't miss any emails to reply to. And that's where Copilot can come in, is help out in those little wins, because that's what 10 minutes a day stacks up. And very, very quickly it becomes a part of your nature. That's what I have said before in the past. If I woke up tomorrow at work and my little Copilot had disappeared, I honestly would not be able to function in my job. It took a few months, but it has become ingrained in my work process, and very much a necessary tool for me to execute on what I do.
Yeah, just need to make it habitual. So just so you know, we've recorded this, so we'll make this available as and when. We'll let you know. We will follow up with everyone, but if you've got any questions in the meantime, obviously just let us know. You know where we are. So finally, thank you to Tom. That's the most important thing, for your presentation for the last hour, and thank you to everyone for attending. And we will see you soon, I'm sure. Take care, everyone.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.